And I'm a final year student studying fashion and textiles. This is a glimpse of my final collection for the Mercedes-Benz fashion show. During my time as a fashion student, I witnessed a lot of fabrics being discarded in the production process. And that is what inspired me to create a minimal waste collection. The collection is focused on the decay of fabrics in the production process. Because during my time as a fashion student, I had to witness a lot of fabrics being discarded in the production process. And that is what inspired me to create a minimal waste collection for my final collection. My collection is a visual display on how different types of fabrics are decayed after they are discarded. So I have contrasted natural fabric and synthetic fabric both in my collection. And I've used hand-dyed techniques such as shibori and batik to illustrate the certain inspiration that I've used in the collection, following with this concept to ensure that I myself have a very minimal waste collection. I have used inspiration from the Japanese kimono, and I've used zero waste pattern cutting, and all the little offcuts I've had in the collection, which were very few offcuts, and those I've recycled into other products which will be displayed in the exhibition. So there is virtually no waste from my collection because of this. My design aesthetic is very minimal, and I like to play with a lot of textures. What I've basically done is just to take the 60 width piece of fabric, and I haven't cut anything off. Like in this, I've played with texture, I've added into it, I haven't subtracted. In the very few times where I have subtracted, like in the jacket above, I have cut just 2 pieces of rectangular fabrics, and that will be converted into a purse. So like that, everything will be recycled and there won't be any waste that is thrown out. So after graduation, I would like to work with a designer who is also ideally part of the slow fashion movement. And I would also like to learn about handcrafts such as lace making, weaving, because now I've played with batiks and hand dyeing techniques, but I would like to work with weaving techniques after graduation. I would also like to work as a stylist. That's also an area I like to get into. And I will also be starting my own label by the beginning of next year. So I'm very excited for that. And thank you.
I'm Kiara Rayner, and I'm a final year fashion and textile design student at AOD. My final collection was basically inspired by power of the Greek goddess. So basically I've looked into the Greek culture, Greek mythological stories, and as you can see, I've used drapings, pleatings, and I've used soft materials for my inner garments. And also, for my button details, I've used the face of Greek goddess Athena. And also for my sleeve details, I've used the technique of smocking. So basically, it was inspired by the Greek hair accessory, that is the wreath. Apart from that, for my sleeves, I've used smocking, and as you can see, it was actually inspired by the Greek goddess, but they wear around their head the wreath. And on the other hand, the other thing that actually inspired me was a personal influence that was basically my mother, and I consider her as my female power woman, and she is a very energetic, powerful character. She is a person who works, she balances life, and therefore I've actually done a work collection, and that's how my tailored looks come. For my textile inspiration, I've used handloom, and this handloom, it was basically, I got it as a throw, and I actually recycled them and gave it my own twist. And also, apart from that, I've used pastel, very subtle shades. So basically my collection is a luxury wear collection where you can actually wear it as office wear, and also you can wear it for an evening function. My future plan is to basically work in the industry first and gain some knowledge, and then after that I might probably launch my own brand. Thank you.
My booth. I'm Sudarika Gamage, a final year fashion student at AOD, and this is my final year graduate collection, 50 Shades of Pink, Spring and Summer, Ready to Wear plus Resort Wear. And the 50 Shades is a reflection of the different roles played by multitasking modern day women in their day-to-day life. The concept of my collection, Modern Day Goddess, is all about building up confidence through comfort. And here my main focus is on redefining the post-pandemic lifestyle of the multitasking modern day women by the production of unique clothing that is semi-structured, luxurious, free-spirited, colorful and sustainable, with inspiration of the hippie movement of the late 60s and 70s. And my collection approaches sustainability through reversibility and versatility by using different kind of crepe material which keeps you warm in winter and cool in summer. As you can see, my collection is a print-oriented one, animal prints in particular, to signify confidence, independence, sexuality and nonconformity, also conveying power to the wearer. And also, to add a bit of glamour, I have added some sequin embroideries. If I talk about the color palette of my collection, the color palette mainly consists of autumnal tones of rusts with some active tones as accent, with inspiration of the ever-changing colors of the lizard. In this journey towards my final year graduate collection, I came across my signature style, which is abstract animal prints, simple and minimal in cut and spirit, embracing ease while capturing the essence of the 70s. After completing my degree, first I would like to gain some experience about the industry, and after that I would like to come up with my own brand under the same name, 50 Shades of Pink. Thank you.
Suhini Disanayaka. I'm a final year fashion design and textile student at the Academy of Design. So my design aesthetic is very minimal and sophisticated. I created this collection called Testimony because it was about a personal narrative of faith. And I wanted it to be a hybrid collection where formal meets loungewear in line with the current pandemic times, where most people are working from home and so on. So the collection made reference to the biblical times, and my core silhouette was inspired by the silhouettes from images that I collected from that time. My main element was to create texture with the fabric in itself, so I used a lot of fabric manipulation through smocking techniques and so on. So the textures were inspired by references to the biblical times, like the walls of Jericho that inspired the different techniques I used in terms of smocking and pleating and the little details. The fabrics as well were in line with my narrative of faith, particularly looking at very comfort-oriented fabrics and thinking about the elements of peace and so on with breathable fabrics. So my future plans is to start my own brand and hopefully it will go well. So thank you very much.
MacLeod from Fashion Design and Textiles. This is my final collection. It's basically about Banksy and the 1960s. I've infused 1960s details with contemporary silhouettes, and the print inspiration is by Banksy. So I basically took in Banksy's artwork and interpreted it on my own, and this is my idea of how Banksy's art looks like on the street. It's a very contemporary collection, hence why I named it This is Contemporary. So my design philosophy involves a lot in shirts. I think that I cater a lot with shirts because that is my strong suit. So there is also a lot of color in my collection. I wanted to create a collection that's very bold and striking, so I've done that. And as to further elaborate on my design philosophy, I like to use a lot of volume, but I also like to infuse it with bodycon so that whoever is the wearer could have the volume aspect. as well as a little bit of bodycon so that they could accentuate their figure as well as be comfortable in the clothing they wear. As for my future plans, I would really like to build my own brand. Thank you so much. I really hope you enjoyed my final collection.
I'm a fashion design and textile graduate from AOD. When speaking about my design aesthetic, I am more into biophilia. I am drawn to volumes, as you can see from my final collection. When speaking about the collection, I base my research on the well-known phrase called "one should never forget its beginning." So during the research, I came to the conclusion where Earth is the beginning of life, and forgetting that can cause major consequences. And so basically my collection delivers the idea of our ignorance of the world and what are the consequences going to be. So that's why it's known as a dystopian destiny. So my major inspiration for the collection was seed pods, as it reminds me of the beginning. And also I took silhouette as Renaissance clothing. And my major inspiration for the collection was seed pods, as it reminds me of the beginning of life. And I also took Renaissance clothing as a silhouette inspiration. And dystopian aesthetic was also incorporated, and that's the backstory of the collection. My future plan is to be a head designer one day, and of course to start my own brand. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm a final year fashion and textile design student at AOD. My signature style is minimalist and simple designs, although I like to play around with detailing and textures. And also I strive to create sophisticated and classy looks with simple prints or neat, clean styles. My final collection is a pre-fall ready-to-wear women's collection, and it was inspired by 1930s women's wear. It is a masculine elements blended into a feminine collection. Also, it is a color blocking collection, and my color palette was inspired by basic feminine and masculine colors according to my research, and my concept is called Burning Femininity. To achieve my future plans, I envisage working at a reputed industrial garment factory because I like to get industrial knowledge before starting my own brand. I would like to thank all my lecturers and AOD staff. Thank you.
I'm a final year fashion and textile design student at AOD. So this is my final year fashion collection, and my final design focus is to represent clear mind in order to represent positivity among people. And for my collection, I was inspired by 1950s and 60s minimalistic daywear using macrame, satin and silk fabrics. For my print inspiration, I was inspired by human emotional art and symbols of meditation. And after the degree, I'm planning to gain more experience for working 2 to 3 years for the industry, and also to start my own brand. Thank you.
Pathiratna, final year fashion student at AOD. This is my final collection. All the lingerie silhouettes inspired from the Victorian deconstructed undergarments. Rather than using the synthetic laces, I chose 100% cotton beaded laces to add the Sri Lankan touch to my collection. All the beaded laces inspired from the deep sea creatures such as octopus textures and shell textures. This collection is a story of sexuality, femininity and elegance. In this journey, I would like to thank for the AOD to giving me the best opportunities and the determination they gave. And
I must be thankful for the Brandix Ratmalana and Brandix Bingham for incorporated me with my collection. In the future, I would like to continue as a lingerie designer with my own label. Thank you.
Natasha Jairaj. I'm a final year fashion and textile student. My design aesthetics as a designer is women's wear crafted for comfort, unbiased to time, trend, age, or shape. For my final collection, I am inspired by a story of a secret garden where only women live and there's no cultural restrictions. Women can do whatever they like, wear whatever they like, and live happily. For my details, I have incorporated ruffles, bows, pin tucks, and also for the digital prints, I've used fresh flowers. I've pressed the fresh flowers and made it into prints and digital printed it throughout the garments. My future plans would be having my own brand for women and kids.
Hi, Ahampat. I'm here with my Fall-Winter 2020 collection. The collection name is Poison. The main inspiration for this collection was Amazon. I wanted to show the positive and the negative vibe of Amazon, since with the current situation of the world, basically I was focused on pollution. Since I'm a big nature lover, so I thought of inspire from nature. So I thought the Amazon is the very best place to get inspired from. So basically, in my collection, I have showed the beauty of Amazon as well as the polluted Amazon. That's why I have choose a very minimal color palette, and also every one of garment has a story behind it. So basically, most of my garments are knitted, and all the yarns and everything which I have purchased from factory waste, and all these big factories around Sri Lanka. So I purchased all these waste, as well as these are all hand knitted, and I have used hand knitted crochet as well as wasted leather. So in this collection, you can see I have done a 60 with leather material using waste leather. So that's about it, and my future plan is to cater for Hollywood. So thank you very much.
Shaka Hetcharachi, final year fashion design and textile student. So if I talked about my concept, it's based on road and railway construction hardworking men. My color inspirations are taken from rust and metal. As you can see, my whole collection has the vibe of rust and metal throughout. And I've been working with denims, handloom and crochet as my fabrics. Also, I've been working with local artisans from down south for my beadaloo, handloom and crochet. So I can consider my collection as a sustainable collection, which I've been using factory waste fabrics and yarns. So for my denims, I've been using organic cotton, which is made from bamboo fiber. So if I talked about how my dyeing process works, is I had a collaboration with the industry from Orit Apparels of Isabella. So I've been working with them for almost a month to achieve the dye process, working in the washing plants. Also, I've been using the coating technique, which is a new nanotechnology that I got inspired from the industry. So I have coating in 3 of my garments applied. So if I talked about my beadaloo and handloom and crochet, I was working with the local artisans. So I have used factory waste yarns for my crochet and beadaloo. So it's the first time that beadaloo is being weaved as a fabric, because normally what we see beadaloo as a lace, but I have collaborated it with the artisans, and I wanted to get the effect. I wanted to change the beadaloo into a fabric texture sort. So I've been doing lots of experiments, as you can see, and I was able to get beadaloo as a fabric textured for my collection. So apart from nanotechnology, I also have used e-flow techniques to get my denim bleachings to the exact color palette that I want. And also I've been working with laser prints and laser technique for 2 of my garments. As a brand and a designer, I want to produce a sustainable and eco-friendly product to the market. I've been looking to a certain market level, so I was more focusing towards Levi's, Ralph and Lucky brand products. So I've been inspiring their techniques also for my final collection. After graduation, I wish to work for a reputed company, and maybe after another few years time to start my own brand. I would like to specialize in menswear and denims, because I find it more comfortable than working with other materials. I find working with denims more comfortable. So I would definitely launch a denim collection in the near future. Thank you.
Moda Dayakumara, final year fashion design and textile student at AOD. My signature style is where a designer plays around with classic and minimal silhouettes. I love to play with textures and patterns as well as different kinds of the fabrics. I love to play with textures and patterns as well as different kinds of fabrics using draping techniques rather than work with print-based clothing. So I think that would be the best way to describe my signature style. The concept behind my collection is dark side of life and embracing the darkness. Considering each and every one of our own life experiences, you and I both can think of many silver lines in darkness that surrounds us. My design inspiration is a mix of Greco-Roman drapings and 1920s fashion. The collection is aimed at confident women who are not afraid of facing dark side of life and overcoming their darkness by embracing it rather than hiding from it. The color palette of my collection includes dark colors to represent the dark and negative feelings we face, and I have used white in all looks to express the silver lining in every dark cloud. And as the design feature of my collection includes the craft of Italian trapunto quilting technique. Trapunto means quilting, to quilt in Italian. It utilizes a wadding or padding layer in between at least 2 fabric layers and produces raised surface on the quilt. And I have used all the patterns I have used to quilt is inspired from Greek and Roman architectural border designs. I'm planning on retailing or work under someone to gain more experiences. After a few years of experience, which will enhance my skill set, and I'm hoping to start my own brand. And at last but not least, I would like to thank all of my tutors who helped me throughout all the 3 years of my life, my journey at AOD, and without them I would not have been able to achieve the height I am today. Thank you.
Rodrigo, and I'm a final year fashion and textile student. My final collection is mainly focused on feminism, and I want to present myself as a textile designer. So I chose women's wear in Edwardian era as my concept. My loungewear collection is mainly exaggerated dress details and silhouettes worn by late imperial Russian royal family and Edwardian upper classes. As you can see, I have used drapes, pin tucks and shading for my collection. My prints are inspired by Aubrey Beardsley's artworks and his black ink paintings, which has interesting details. And for this collection I have used pale colors and soft fabrics to give the comfortable and softness look for the modern day woman. Well, my future plan is to work in the industry, and I'm hoping to launch my clothing brand, and I want to work in clothing industry. Thank you.
Prashanthi Bandara, a final year student in the fashion design and textile program. My signature style would be something in the stream of deconstruction in fashion, mainly in women's wear. The reason I love about this style is that it allows me to explore different techniques, and also it allows me to do various types of fabric manipulations and create a totally new and a unique outcome out of it. Also, I am more of a sustainable designer. So as my final collection, I have chosen the concept of deconstruction and sustainability in together. So the main inspiration for my final collection has been taken from the World War II European refugees. Since there was a shortage of fabric supply at that time, they used to stitch whatever the fabrics they found lying around themselves to make some clothing out of that for them to wear. And also I observed the silhouettes, the volume and the repatching and restyling they have done onto the garments they dress. Repatching and restyling on the garments they do wear. Similarly, you would see a lot of repatch and a lot of different techniques used in my collection too, such as hand embroidery, machine embroidery, cross stitch, bead embellishments. I have done a lot of techniques together to put the final collection on. As for the print aspect, I have used a very minimal use of prints because it's mostly about sustainable and repatching in my garments. So for the inspiration for prints, it has been deconstructed bomb sites and deconstructed architecture. Talking about the sustainable angle in my collection, I have used natural fabrics such as cotton, linen, and also these fabrics has been naturally dyed using natural resources such as turmeric, coffee, areca nuts and rusted iron pieces and many more. Another factor that includes to my sustainable concept is that I have purchased a very few fabrics from actual shops, and to make up with the final collection, I have used factory leftover fabrics, threads and embellishments. So it's a collection of leftover thrown away fabrics that has made up my collection. You would see a lot of repatching, restitching and a lot of work and technique used that was inspired from the European refugee clothing. So after I graduate, I would like to gain more experience and knowledge in the fashion industry by working in a well-known brand or in a well-known company. At the end, I would like to have a sustainable fashion brand for myself, in which I would be able to explore my style more, and also which would help to reduce the pollution that is caused by the fashion industry by at least some percentage. So that is as for my future goals. Thank you.
Lavanna, and I'm a final year fashion design and textile student, and my final collection is set against an utopian future based on 1980s aesthetics. This collection is a reaction to the continuous virtual collaboration we see as a solution to the recent pandemic. It reimagines a modern warrior that coexists both in the metaverse as well as the physical world. Tech leisure looks are the key point of this collection. Very much detailed garments are paired together with upgraded loungewear to create this collection. And also this collection is a print-based collection, therefore have used different techniques in this, like foil prints, heat seals and sublimation prints, and together with that I have used sequin work, embroidery and hand-dyed fabrics to create this collection. And after my degree I'm going to work in the industry and gain more experience, and after that I'm going to create a gender-neutral brand in Sri Lanka. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank all my lecturers who helped me through this long journey. Thank you.
Puntara Vijayavikrama. I'm a final year fashion and textile student at AOD. My final project is about the internalized misogyny that goes on in the brown community. You might know it well from aunties. All the girls in Sri Lanka knows it very well, where you get things like, do you have any idea to lose weight, and all these condescending comments that you get from a young age. So yeah, I'm calling out all the aunties with my collection this year. It's like all the built up anger inside and then just put it out there. So my project name is Anti-Auntie Gaze, and you can see most of the auntie gazes that you have from the prints that I've created here. I use digital printing as the main textile development technique in my project, and these are the pieces, and embroidery as well. These are the pieces that I did. These are illustrations I did by myself. First they were drawn and then digitized. So as you can see, yeah, Reuter Varta, those type of typical auntie expressions that you give at when you're like disappointed at your kids. This print was inspired by famous disappointed auntie faces and their gossip faces. I use myself as a reference to make these, because I can't go up to aunties and ask, can you be disappointed in me? So yes. And then actually this is my best friend's neighbor. This is an actual person. I mean, no hate to that auntie. She has not done anything for us, but still it's an ongoing joke. I was inspired by the 90s for the silhouettes, because as you can see, I'm also very much into oversized clothing, and that's why I wanted to create pieces that I would definitely wear and what I would love to see on other people as well. For my future plans, I would first like to get some work experience, and then I would maybe, hopefully, in another 5 years, like to come up with my own brand. That is a dream, and yes, and my brand would someday definitely be some place where anyone will be accepted in, any outcast. Thank you.
Ranavira, and I'm a final year fashion and textile student at AOD. So my final collection is a modern, floral, semi-formal to formal women's wear collection for spring-summer 2022. And the inspiration behind my garment silhouettes are 1940s, Second World War utility style clothing. So the reason why I chose 1940s was because they are extremely well tailored garments, and how slim their silhouettes is, but also they are somewhat military feel. So also the jackets and skirts are short and close fitted, so I was really interested in that, and I used all the details in my garments as well. So and also the unique thing about 1940s is the sharp shoulders.
So that's why I used sharp shoulder pads in my collection in all my garments. So the inspiration behind my prints is the Gardens by the Bay, Singapore. So it's a memory that I experienced in 2016. So it's a fantastical floral garden in Singapore, and I used all the watercolor paintings to hand paint my prints in my collection, and I hand painted specific florals from the garden. And I've also used embellishments in this collection to make my collection more formal looking and elegant. And also my style would be tailoring and also print based. So doing this project, I was really interested in looking at tailoring in a different perspective, and I think I'm interested in creating more formal tailoring for women's suits. And also my future plans are working in the corporate industry for a while to get an experience and to learn about the fashion industry, and starting my own label someday. Thank you.